righty, we're back. Welcome to the KNL Sports Huddle. I'm Cage Kiplinger and joined as always by my good friend Logan Hubert. This is our weekly podcast breaking down the top stories in the world of sports. We cover a lot and we hope you all enjoy that aspect of it. But how we feeling, man?
Doing great. Probably better than the city of Houston right now, but
Yeah, you got that right.
yeah.
How'd you guys, I know the storms came through last week pretty hard for us. What about you guys?
Yeah, last Wednesday evening was really bad. Had some tree damage and stuff. And then yeah, all the rain lately has just been flooding the roads. But it's slowly starting to recover. We had full sunshine today, so I'll take
Yeah,
that any day.
the Ohio River is up pretty high, I hear.
Yeah.
I know down here in Nashville, we got a tornado warning about every 5 minutes, so we were on our toes, definitely. But before we continue, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. That's at KL Sports Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and follow us, give us a rating, review. We're also on Instagram at Huddle KL Sports. You can see some of our content come through on there in short bits, as well as any breaking news that happens in the world of sports. But we had a lot happen this past week. I know we're recording this a day later, so we had that extra day worth that some news broke today that we'll get to in the NBA, and obviously the Final Four was the biggest story that we're going to be talking about today. We got Houston and Duke in one of the Final Four matchups, as well as Auburn and Florida, and then finally had a great national championship game against Houston and Florida. So first, I would like to start with the national championship game since that's fresher in people's minds right now. I just want to let you have the floor for a second. What were your initial thoughts after that game unfolded?
Yeah, entertaining, which is good because last couple of years with UConn, the games have been kind of meh. You could say disappointing in terms of quality, but yeah, very entertaining game. A lot of missed shots. So if you're a fan of elite offense, that this was not your game because uh, the turnovers numbers were average, I would say overall. But yeah, it was mostly low scoring just because of the missed shots. Both teams shot under 40% from the field. I think Florida was 39 and Houston may have been 34. Yeah. So, I mean, that's not to say there wasn't good defense because there was some elite level defense being played by both teams throughout the game. You could definitely say these were two of the better teams in a title game. I don't know if I'd say two of the best teams because we'll talk about a game that happened in the Final Four in a little bit. But two of the better teams that both deserve to be there. And yeah, Houston was in control. They gained a 12-point lead in the second half. And then, Florida just slowly started chipping away. And then it came down to the end. And ultimately, what killed Houston was their four turnovers on four possessions at the end of the game. So, yeah, credit to Florida. I would say preseason, they were projected to be a decent team, but probably not a title contender. But I think they outblew all expectations, earning that one seed, winning the SEC tournament, and then continuing that momentum and going 6-0 in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Let's stick with Florida here because this season got off to a bit of a weird start with Todd Golden and the allegations against him with the Title IX investigation. For them to persevere throughout this season and get to that championship game and obviously to win it was pretty exceptional stuff. Looking at the coaches that Todd Golden has beaten this year. I mean, he's beaten the likes of Rick Barnes, John Calipari, Bruce Pearl, Nate Oates, Dan Hurley, and now he finishes off his great year by beating a Hall of Fame worthy coach in Kelvin Sampson. He also becomes the youngest coach since Jimmy Valvano in 1983 to win the national championship.
Also against Houston.
Also against Houston, so it was meant to be, right? But yeah, obviously, they had to win a different way. What we've been used to with Florida is that they can score the hell out of the ball. Tonight, or last night, I mean, Walter Clayton Jr., their best player, who's been killing it this tournament, he was held to 0 points in the first half, and I don't think he made a bucket until there was like 15 minutes maybe left to go in the second half. So they definitely shut him down. They had a plan. Houston had a plan for him, and they did a really good job. I think Richards was probably the difference maker the first half and just keeping it close for Florida. He had 11 in the first half, but Houston controlled the pace here with that first half. But obviously, like you said, the second half just it got away from them. I feel like they were forcing shots. They were obviously, the way they ended it, 4 turnovers on their last 4 possessions is not ideal. But you talked about you had a note here of the second half with the officiating. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I thought the first half was called consistently, which is really all you want to see at this point in officiating. Because, I mean, if you watch games from 30 years ago, like the spacing was so much different. I don't think there
Right.
was as much fouling and stuff. But now the game's just so much more physical that the refs can't call everything. So, really, to be a good referee for a particular game, you just have to be consistent. You're either going to call a bunch of fouls throughout the game or you're just going to let them play. And I thought the first half they did a good job. For one, you'd rather see them play in a championship game rather than a lot of fouls. And two, yeah, the first half was well officiated. It could have been almost the perfect first half to watch if there wasn't so many missed shots because it was free flowing basketball, not too many whistles.
Yeah.
Okay, but now, this has been a problem in college basketball a lot, where for some reason officials like to switch their tones in the second half. I think it's mainly because in the first half, I don't think they want to call too many fouls because they don't want to get too many guys in foul trouble.
Yeah.
But when they don't do that, then they feel like for some reason they could change the way they're calling the game, and then they just start calling a bunch of fouls. So yeah, a lot of negatives from that half, starting with the foul situation. So yeah, they called, I forget how many fouls in the first few minutes of that game, but at one point it was with about 15 or 14 minutes to go. Florida had 7 fouls on them, and Houston had 3. I think they had 3 fouls called on them. So right there, they've already called 10 fouls in the first few minutes, which is I think it was already more than they called in the whole entire first half.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one bad thing. And then another bad thing they started to do, which we've seen a lot, is they love to start evening it out. And what helped with that was that they called a technical on Florida, and that also is always a recipe for, okay, we're going to start calling the other way now.
Yeah.
And you could say almost all the fouls that were called, you could say they were fouls, but a lot of that stuff was going on in the first half too.
Right.
And they weren't calling it. And it was really weird, because it was 7-3 foul wise. Florida had 7, Houston had 3. And then a few minutes later, Houston had 11 fouls and Florida had 7. They just started calling all on Houston, and Houston was playing more physical than Florida at the time of the game. But I mean, there was a couple times Florida should have been called for a foul if the way they were calling it at the time. They should have been calling it on everybody. Yeah, and then I think maybe the goal of that was to get a close game at the end, which that's good for ratings. I'm not complaining about that. I love close games. But so you have those two things, how they're calling it and when they call it. And then third is the video reviews. It's gotten so bad. This game encapsulated all the problems. Hook and holds that are barely hook and holds, they get reviewed. Out of bounds plays, when the ball gets knocked out of bounds and it's completely obvious, and then they spend 3 minutes reviewing it. I've always said that college basketball really shouldn't do much of anything that the NBA does. It should be a completely different product. But it's gotten so bad with the reviews at the end of games in college basketball. I almost think that they should adopt the NBA's challenge rule, where a coach
Right.
gets to challenge a play. I think that would be helpful. And yeah, it would speed the game up. It wouldn't be so coaches wouldn't get so many free timeouts, because I think that's a big part of basketball is like the strategy of when you want to call your timeouts and stuff. And
Yeah.
at this day and age, you don't even. It's almost like sometimes you don't even need timeouts at the end because you're going to get you're going to get free timeouts from all the unnecessary reviews. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my rant on the officiating. I hope the NCAA changes some things in the off season. It would help the sport. It would make a much free flowing game and hopefully more accurate calls.
Yeah. And looking at going back to what I mentioned last week with people complaining about there not being the Cinderella story. Well, guess what? This was the most watched national title game since 2019 with an average of 18.1 million viewers. So people will definitely watch this, and that just lets you know that when the best teams are in the Final Four, people are gonna show up for those games. Taking a look at the Final Four games that happened last Saturday, we first had a Florida Auburn game where in the first half Auburn pretty much dominated in the paint in that first half. Broome ended up with 12 points at halftime. Auburn had a 46-38 halftime lead, and with that they had a 26-14 advantage in points in the paint. So they definitely, what it looked like in that first half was a bit of a slower pace, even regardless of what the score looked like. The score can be deceiving there, but they would get it down to Broome. He would dribble, 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 back someone down, and he'd get some easy shot close to the rim. So they got a lot of their points in the paint. And what I just noticed was that Florida was electing to guard Broome one-on-one. They weren't bringing any help, and so he was basically just going to get to go one-on-one with one of those skinny white boys that Florida has with Condon and Hamilton and on all those guys. But Florida was electric out of halftime. They came out, they took the reins and were really able to skim that halftime lead that Auburn had. But their defensive intensity ramped up later on, and they were able to have the put away shots that Auburn couldn't answer. Broome was held to only 3 points in the second half. I think all that work that he was doing in the first half wore him down. I think what I thought in the first half was a bad strategy ended up being the way they wanted to play this out that Florida did. Walter Clayton, we mentioned him in the national championship game struggling. This is what got them to the championship game, was his 34 points. Had his moment. This was his moment in the Final Four, and that really stood out to me. So, what your thoughts on the Florida Auburn game in the Final Four?
Yeah, so Auburn had the 8 point lead at the half, but it just did not feel like that was going to last. Like something, when you watch that first half, you're like, these are two very evenly matched teams. Uh,
And they've seen each other a lot.
They've seen each other. There's a very slim chance that Auburn can hold their 8 point lead. Whether they lose or win, that's still up in the air. But we knew Florida was going to come back. But yeah, I like what you said about Broome getting tired, because it almost seemed like a lot of Auburn, their entire team was like getting worn out by the end of that game. Um, Pettiford on Auburn did not have a good shooting day. I think he only had 7 points and he didn't hit a three in the game. Chad Baker Mazzaro, for me, was the only reason that it was still close at the end, because he hit 3 threes in the first half, and he went 4 for 7 from three. He hit he hit a clutch three in the second half and almost hit another one, but he kind of did what Emmanuel Sharp did 2 days later, where he bounced it.
Yeah,
except he did travel because he landed and then tried to shoot.
I thought that looked familiar when Sharp did that. I
Yeah,
thought I'd
yeah.
seen that not too long ago.
Yep, and that pretty much ended any chance that Auburn had in winning that game, which kind of sucked because he didn't make that three, so you knew he was kind of still on fire, which Auburn needed because there was no one getting going on offense in that game in the second half. But probably the two best SEC teams going at each other in the Final Four. I think that was good because that was obviously the best conference in the nation this year. I hate conference championships. Like, okay, I'm going to restate that. I hate conference NCAA championships. Same conference whenever, like, if Auburn and Florida played in the national title game, I don't. I like it from two different conferences, but I like this Final Four matchup. I was interested to see if Auburn would get revenge from their home loss to Florida this year, but I think it made it pretty clear that Florida reigned supreme in the SEC this year.
Most definitely. I think the best teams made it to the Final Four. The best teams made it to the championship. The best team won it all, and I think they definitely earned it. But let's take a look at this last game here in the Final Four. This Houston and Duke game. This one was wild. So Houston, being led by Kelvin Sampson, this team's a defensive juggernaut, and they showed out in this game with that version of Houston. They were able to cut Duke's lead to 6 at halftime, which was huge. I think that was, because Duke had been dominating, keeping a double-digit lead for most of that game, and for Houston to be able to cut it to 6 right before half, I think was a huge momentum boost. But they just started making their shots in the second half. Duke's lead continued to increase. Early on in that second half, I was seeing it as Houston was getting deuces and Duke was getting threes, and so it was just hard for Houston to keep up with them. But their methodical game style really was able to keep them in it, and the action just heated up the last 5 minutes. It was pretty dormant through most of that game. I think everyone kind of just assumed, all right, Duke's got a 15-point lead. Let's just wrap things up. The last 5 minutes were anything but boring. Houston's defense making clutch plays at the end of the game. Sharp hitting a huge 3. Roberts hitting clutch free throws. The big steal off the inbounds pass made all the difference in the game. And what I really noticed, that it was just as much a Houston defensive juggernaut of the last 5 minutes as it was a Duke collapse, just a complete collapse. An 11-1 run by Houston in the last minute 42. Cooper Flagg ended up having an opportunity to win the game at the end. He just came up short. LJ Cryer was a huge performer for Houston. He had 26 points, going 6 of 9 from 3-point range. Your thoughts on the Houston Duke game?
So yeah, you're absolutely right on saying that everyone's kind of like thinking wrap this up by about the 10 or 9 minutes.
I thought I was good. I had Duke going all the way. I thought, all right, we're good. We're going to the championship.
But if you or any of our listeners recall, on January 25th earlier this year at Fog Allen Fieldhouse, Kansas had a 6-point lead against Houston with 20 seconds left, and they were shooting 2 free throws. And Houston won that game. So, if there was a team that was going to come back against a double-digit deficit to Duke, it would have been this Houston Cougars team. Veteran team, strong defensive team. Duke went scoreless toward the end of the game, but they'd still only held Duke to less than 60 points in that first 32 minutes or so, which is pretty impressive considering Duke was, I think, the number one offense in the country at the time. But let's go through that final minutes or some of those stretches. So Duke at one point had a 14-point lead, and then Houston cut it to 4, and there was a flagrant foul called in the middle of that, which I think kind of started Houston's comeback. So yeah, Houston cut it to 4, is 59-55, and then Duke went up by 9 again, and that was the only during that time. That was the only field goal they scored in that last 10:31 of that game. Cooper Flagg hit a 3, and that made it a 64-55 game. Yeah, and then Houston cut it to 5. It was 64-59, and then free throws happened for Duke. It was 66-59, And then this is when things started going crazy. So then Houston scored, cut it to 6. And then that technical foul was called on the whenever he
Right.
reached across the baseline, which you rarely see, but I mean,
Tugler, yeah.
Tugler. Luckily for Houston, that's just a Class B technical. So it only allowed Duke only shot one free throw and got the ball back. And obviously, Canepa was a 92% free throw shooter, made it. So that made it a 67-61 game, and that was the last time Duke scored. So so Emmanuel Sharp hit a three to cut it to 3, hit a 3 to make it 67-64. And then they were struggling to inbound the ball. I believe then Duke called a timeout, maybe, and then they still struggled. And then Zion James threw a terrible pass that was picked off. And then Houston attempted a 3, missed it. And then they had a putback dunk to cut it to 1. And then another grave mistake was made whenever they finally did get it inbounded. But instead of looking for Knipple, should have just held. Knipple had the ball. He's a 92% free throw shooter. Him or Flag should have had the ball for the free throws because Flag was 8 for 8 at the free throw line at the time. Either one of them should have just held the ball and waited for a foul. Instead, they threw it to Tyrese Proctor, who was only a 68% free throw shooter, and he got fouled. He missed the front end of a 1-and-1, and then Cooper Flag got called for an over-the-back foul, which I think was kind of ticky-tacky. People are saying it cost Duke the game. I don't think it did because Houston ended up getting that rebound anyways.
Right.
And in fact, it probably, because Jawan Taylor was the one who shot the free throws, he was only a 60% free throw shooter. So honestly, I think it would have been about the same chances of Houston scoring if they would have just let them play out or sending a 60% free throw shooter to the line. But man, credit Jawan Taylor, 60% free throw shooter, hit two free throws, down 1 to take the lead. I mean, that's just incredible. That's just senior leadership right there. That's when you trust your leaders to go out there and make the right plays, and sure enough, he did just by making his 2 free throws. Yeah, and then the Flag shot, drew up a play. Everyone knew Flag was going to shoot. I think Duke should have maybe tried swinging the ball more, moving the ball more, and maybe still gotten Flag a shot, but Flag ISO ball, I don't think was the right move there because once again, Jawan Taylor made an incredible play, great contest. And that pretty much ended it. Just unbelievable, unbelievable game. I picked Houston to win that, but yeah, I was with the majority of America when I thought it was, this is probably over at about the 10-minute mark when Duke had that 14-point lead.
Yeah, let me give you a number, 0. And that is the number of rebounds that Kaman Malawach had for the entire game. This guy is 7'2". He's probably got nearly, an 8-foot wingspan. I don't know how that ends up being his stat line in rebounds for that game.
So Houston's an incredible offensive rebound team. Like, even in the championship game, Florida, out-rebounded them by 1, but that was mostly because Houston missed so many shots. But Houston vastly out-rebounded Florida in that game. Like, every single game Houston played in this tournament, they just completely destroyed the offensive boards. Now, having said that, though, if you're a 7'2" potential lottery pick, you gotta grab, you gotta get some boards.
I think his draft stock probably plummeted a little bit there.
He may have. I mean, he was a minus 18. He starts for Duke, and he was a minus 18 in a 3-point loss. I mean, that's just a huge indicator right there.
Yeah.
I think him and Zion James and Proctor may have had their worst games of the year, which is unfortunate because they played so well all year as a team. And, that's just what Houston does to you. Because, Proctor went 0 for 4 from 3. He only had 7 points. Zion James is also minus 18 on the game. And Duke's bench also only scored 4 total points that game, which isn't going to get it done. People are going to dunk on Flag for missing that shot and saying he's not clutch. He doesn't have the clutch gene. To me, that's just ridiculous because for 2 reasons. One, his stat line was 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. He went 3 for 4 from 3 and had made all 8 of his free throws. I mean, if you're going to say he's not clutch,
It's a
doing that in the
great
final
game.
four game,
He did his job.
a great game, and even that final shot. I mean, Taylor played incredible contest.
That's about as good a shot as you're going to get against Houston in that situation. He was
Yeah.
not going to get an open look. That was going to be a shot creating type look, a fadeaway, body. He wasn't going to be an open look.
No, and yeah. So anyone dunking on him is just in the wrong. Knipple, I thought, was also solid. He had 16. He made 3 threes. He just was kind of a non-factor towards the end. Maybe I think Houston knew how big of a spark he could be, so I think they did a good job taking him out in the second half. But unfortunate for Duke because to me they were the most likable Duke team probably ever.
One of the most talented ones too.
Talented. There's no Grayson Allen or whoever tripping people. And they played well as a team. They're just a good team to watch. And I did not expect them to lose like that. I expected if Houston was going to win, it'd be an absolute slugfest the entire 40 minutes. And Houston ekes it out at the end, where no team really had much of a lead. But no, I was wrong. But Houston was the comeback kings this year. So
yeah, this Final Four was all about comebacks. I mean, we had Florida come back on Auburn, Houston come back on Duke, and then Florida come back on Houston in the final game.
And Florida come back on Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. That may have been the most insane comeback. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And viewership for the Final Four averaged 15.3 million, most since 2017. So on all fronts, it was a very successful tournament. One more note on Flag is I cut him some slack too because he's supposed to be a high school senior. He reclassified. I mean, you're asking a high school senior basically to win you a national championship. He played incredible. He had a great tournament, great season. He's going to be number 1 pick in the draft. It's a lock. And so, I mean, I would assume he'd declare to the draft. I don't know if he has already, but I would assume.
Yeah, the only thing, if I don't know when he has to declare, but if the Charlotte Hornets or Washington Wizards ended up with that first pick, I would definitely, I would consider all options if I was him. Not telling him what to do. I would just consider all options.
Yep. And also, we've been focusing on the men's game throughout this podcast, but national championship for the women's game happened on Sunday. I did watch that game. It was a blowout. I actually had picked UConn to win it all. I thought that it'd finally be their year once again after a few dormant years. But Paige Becker's incredible season after blowing out her knee last year. She wins the program's 12th title against the defending champion in South Carolina, who just not the same team from last year. It was impressive that they got all the way there, but they didn't have the team they had from last year with Cardosa down low. Becker's expected to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft. She ended up with 17 in the national championship game, but just an incredible career altogether. And that was the one thing that she didn't have on her resume. She can now say she's an NCAA champion. I mean, she's a 4-time NCAA All-Tourney, 4-time NCAA All-Region, an AP Player of the Year, Wooden Award, Naismith Award, multiple-time Big East Player of the Year and all Big East. I mean, she's got everything else on her resume. She's able to cap it off. And once again, Gino Auriemma, head of the Mafia. He looks like someone from the Mafia. He has been there for all their titles, and he's just an incredible coach, an incredible team once again for the women's tournament. Just want to end this with some closing thoughts. This will be it for us with college basketball for the year. It's been basically the biggest part of our podcast for our first few episodes to get this thing going. We'll be having to drop it after this podcast and probably not picking it up again until next year, most likely with football season in the way for that first part of the non-conference schedule. But just closing thoughts on the season, this tournament, just everything college basketball that we've gone over this start of this podcast.
Yeah, we've talked about this numerous times, but I think the chalk tournament was both expected, but it turned out I think it turned out great for the sport. Like the viewership was high. We got good Final Four games. Yeah, I would definitely the first round games were a little lackluster, which is unfortunate because a lot of people say that's the best day in sports, the Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday. So you're kind of hoping for at least a little more chaos. Hopefully we get that in the future. But yeah, it was a great season. Fitting an SEC team won it all. Um, and yeah, some unique players too, like Cooper Flag, guy supposed to be in still in high school, ends up winning the Naismith Award. Looked pretty sad when he accepted that award after that Houston loss. So kind of felt bad for him after that, but yeah, credit to him. Um, yeah, and interesting with the new bigger conferences too. This was the first year where the Big Ten was at 18 teams, where the Big 12 was bigger. There was no
Yeah.
more Pac-12. I honestly enjoyed it. Um,
I
I
did too.
I'm in the minority. I think for other sports, sometimes the big travel might be bad for those sports, but I think for basketball and football, I kind of like this new element of West Coast teams in the Big Ten and stuff. I will say for the ACC though, I don't like if you're going to call yourself the Atlantic Coast Conference, you can't have California and Stanford in it.
Yeah.
Just one more thing, though. I want to briefly talk about UConn winning the women's national title.
Yep.
So, similar to Duke this year, I think this was the most likable UConn. This is the easiest UConn team to root for probably ever, and it's mostly because they haven't won a title in 10 years, and yeah, Paige Becker was due. She's the best player this year. She's been regarded as one of the best for a while. Unfortunately, she had that injury that prevented her from suiting up against Caitlin Clark more often or whoever.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to go a little bit of tangent here. I think the 2010s, I think what UConn did in the 2010s ruined women's college basketball. Because, and my take on this is because, so between one of the biggest differences between the men's game and the women's game is that the best women, like the great women's players, are so much better than the good women's players. With men, the best men's players, that gap between them and the good men's players isn't.
Right.
It's much narrower. That's why you could have these teams you hate in the men's league, like really good Duke teams or that Kentucky team from 2015 with the blue platoon, white platoon,
Yeah.
where they had all these recruits. Like obviously they were the best team because they got all these high end recruits, good basketball players. But you still knew it was possible for them just to have a slight off night and another team of really good players to shoot really well and play outstanding defense. With women, it just doesn't work like that. And it was hard to get invested into women's basketball when UConn got all the good recruits, but that just made them so much better than everyone else. I mean, they went on a 111 game winning streak from 2014 to 2017. They won 4 straight titles. I mean,
yeah, think about all the great players who are in the WNBA now that went through UConn. I mean, Maya Moore, I think, retired, but Brianna Stewart, just so many that came through UConn.
yeah, and I mean, I'm not taking away anything from their talent. It's just, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a product, and whenever that happens, whenever we already know who's going to win without any question whatsoever, it kind of ruins it, and that's why someone like Caitlin Clark was refreshing.
Yeah.
Going at Iowa, and I'll even say like Brittany Griner at the time, a unique player, went to Baylor. I mean, I thought that was refreshing. That was good for women's basketball. But yeah, having said that though, I'm happy for UConn this year. I wish the games were a little closer, but yeah, congratulations to them. I'm sure their fans were devastated that their men didn't win a title this year because they haven't won enough of those. So good for them, for their women.
Hey, Dan Hurley got 2 rings.
Yeah.
2 rings, Baldy. I love that. Diana Taurasi, I forgot about her at UConn. I forgot to
Brandon
mention her.
Stewart.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll end things for our college basketball coverage here on the KNL Sports Huddle. some huge news came out of the NBA today. uh, thank God we did this podcast today. We wouldn't have gotten this. Denver Nuggets fire their coach, Michael Malone, with 3 games left in the season. They also relieved the GM, Calvin Booth. Um, when I saw the news that this broke, I just had questions. I just want to know why. Michael Malone, he led the team to an NBA championship just 2 seasons ago. He's the winningest coach in Denver Nuggets history, and right now Denver currently sits in 4th place in the West. Granted, they're on a 4-game losing streak, which is their worst of the season, but I don't see that as a reason to get rid of Michael Malone, who is one of the main reasons, along with Jokic, that this team even has a title in their organization's history. Your thoughts on just this news that broke today that was shocking to the NBA world?
Yeah, the GM firing I think may be warranted because the team that's been put around Jokic here lately, he made the Aaron Gordon move a couple of years ago, which was very beneficial. But since
And I've mentioned the fact that losing KCP, losing Bruce Brown, it's just like they've
yeah,
done nothing in the offseason, and they bring in Westbrook, who's kind of washed.
yeah, so I think that move was warranted. Still, the timing was a little weird, but
Yeah,
yeah, unless the vibes have definitely been off for the Nuggets here lately. They're on this 4-game losing streak, and you just look at the bench, it's like something's weird happening. Definitely weird, but I'm I'm getting close to being fully convinced that the other teams in the West just exist to make dumb moves so the Lakers and Warriors inevitably meet in the conference finals. Because so what? The Nuggets fired their coach, the Grizzlies fired their coach here recently,
yep,
and the Mavericks were being the Mavericks a few weeks ago with the whole Luka debacle. So yeah, I just don't get it. I think if the owner made up his mind that he was going to get rid of the coach, um, that's fine. I just don't understand why you wouldn't wait till after the season, because unless your only hope is you get a little boost, uh, like players play a little more motivated heading into the postseason. But even then, I just think the timing's off. Um, who knows what's going to happen with Jokic now? He might want
yeah.
out. He might want out soon, or Jamal Murray might want out soon.
Well, and closer to when we started recording this, I'd gotten some more tidbits of news about the firing, and learning that Malone and the GM had kind of been at odds a little bit more recently, and instead of taking sides on the matter and choosing one way or the other, they just decided to let both of them go, which just screams to me just dysfunction and an unorganized organization that are going to waste the best years of Jokic's career.
Yeah, and yeah, it's unfortunate because two that was already 2 years ago. NBA champions last year. Last year they made the conference semifinals in a hard fought 7-game, lost a hard fought 7-game series to the Timberwolves. Really, no shame in that because the West is
No.
just always loaded. So you're not gonna go on a title run. You're not gonna win many consecutive titles in the West at this point in time. But yeah, 4th place in the West, and not just 4th place. Like all the teams, like if you look at the standings right now,
Yeah, yeah,
from from the 3rd to 8th, yeah, they're all within 2 games of each other. So it's just very weird timing. Like I said, maybe they're looking for a little boost at the end. Like players will play harder, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's just too much dysfunction here, and I think it might be a safe bet to whoever's facing the Nuggets in round 1 to take them in a 7-game series.
yeah. And just going right into the playoff picture, if the season ended today, we'd have in the East Cleveland, Boston, New York, Indiana, Milwaukee, and Detroit, with playing teams being the Magic, Hawks, Bulls, and Heat. In the West, we have OKC, Houston, LA, Lakers, Denver Nuggets, LA Clippers, got the Warriors at 6, with the playing teams being the Timberwolves, Grizzlies, Kings, and Mavericks. Mavericks holding on, could potentially still be a playoff team here. Looking at the playoff picture, kind of what are you seeing here? I mean, I would love LA and Golden State to have an opportunity to make it to the Western Conference Finals. I think there's an opportunity here for it if Golden State can get up to 5, because that would put them on opposite sides of the Western Conference bracket, right?
Yeah. So the West, you can't really take anything away from the West standings right now because it might look completely different after Sunday when the
Yeah,
final game tips off. Other than those are the teams, those top 8 are going to be the teams that are going to be in the playoffs. But yeah, it's going to be interesting next week because teams are going to be looking at the standings and like, hey, do we want to tank this game because I really don't want to face the Lakers in round 1, or I don't want to face Curry in round 1. Yeah, let's lose this so we can hopefully get that 5th spot or whatever. Yeah, I kind of hope that happens. I mean, obviously Thunder Rockets have pretty much clinched 1 and 2,
yeah,
but yeah, 3 through 8, that's absolute logjam. The East is pretty much all settled. It looks like the
yeah,
play-in spots might switch a little bit, but yeah, I think the top 6 seeds are pretty much all in stone, barring epic collapses or some team gets on an absolute flamethrower and wins out, another team loses out. So yeah, I'm it'll be interesting. The West is right now more interesting in this last week because, like I said, the East is pretty much chalked in. But yeah, now that March Madness is over, I'm kind of glad the NBA's kind of glad we got a tight playoff race here in the NBA.
yeah,
It makes
yeah.
I think Thursday though the only nationally televised game. After Thursday, I don't think any of the other games are televised
Mm,
except on
missed
Volley or
opportunity.
whatever local. Yeah, so no missed opportunity there, but we'll have the Masters on instead. So we'll talk about that here in just a second.
Yep, yep. And one more last thing. We won't go too far into the playoff picture. Next week, we will be doing our NBA playoff preview. We'll break that down much more heavily. Um, Looking at this last bit of news that came out last week, the Hall of Fame, elected a couple of guys that we know very well. We grew up watching a couple of these guys. It's funny starting to see players that you grow up watching make it to the Hall of Fame now. You just realize that, oh boy, these guys are retired. We're getting guys that were part of our NBA viewing experience for a while, and we got Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard, along with I wanted to note that the '08 U.S. Olympic Redeem Team. I don't know how that really works. If it's just like the players get
Yeah,
recognized.
I
So
mean,
LeBron's already
is
in the Hall
LeBron
of Fame, I
is
guess.
LeBron a Hall of Famer right now or what?
But just focusing on Melo and Howard at being a first ballot Hall of Famers, I think, because when it comes to the NBA, as opposed to a Hall of Fame like baseball's, where it's much harder to get in, it doesn't matter whether you're first ballot or last ballot. Um, it's an honor, but definitely with the NBA and just basketball Hall of Fame in general, it's awesome to be a first ballot. That signifies a little bit more importance. So just wanted to kind of give an appreciation post in a way for Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard and a couple players that we grew up watching. Kind of your thoughts on their careers and them being elected to the Hall of Fame this year.
Well, before that, I just wanted to ask you: you think if basketball had baseball's Hall of Fame standards, that either of these two guys would get in?
I think Howard would have a better shot.
That's what I agree too. I think Howard making the title game clearly, like it really by far dragged them to that time. I mean, they had some good role
Well,
players,
and
but
also just the fact that Howard was seemingly the best center in the league
yeah,
for a good, I would say, 8-year stretch. And I would never say that about Melo.
no, yeah, Mel. Okay, so yeah. So my thoughts on it: I think for basketball Hall of Fame standards, absolutely both deserve to be in. I think I would say both probably deserve to be first ballot, especially Howard. Yeah, led that '09 Magic
Yeah.
team
Oh nine.
to the finals. And yeah, 8-time All Star, 5-time All NBA first team, 4-time NBA All Defensive first team. I mean, just an incredible rebounder, incredible defensive presence down in the paint. Um, yeah, his career really fell off after. Well,
Well,
he was okay. He went. Did he go to the Lakers or Rockets after the
he
Magic
went. He went
first?
to the Lakers first. That's when he teamed up with Kobe
Yeah,
and Steve Nash. If you remember
yeah,
that from
yeah, yes,
2012. Yeah.
and yeah, but it wasn't the same as those Magic days. I think Magic days were the peak for him. He was a solid center, but nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I really noticed into his later in his latter years of his career was that he was becoming a species of center, if you will, that wasn't really valued as much anymore.
A
It
dying
wasn't
breed. Yeah,
right, right. That like stay in the paint, low post, athletic build that um, just was kind of going out of style. We were, that's when foreign players started to really come on. The shooting threes, center shooting threes, big men shooting threes all the time, being able to pass the ball really well. He was just more of your traditional dominant, fierce low post threat that you just don't really see anymore.
and he'll always have that Superman slam dunk moment.
Yeah, yeah. That one thing I wanted to ask you is like, what's the lasting memory of the Dwight Howard experience? What's
Yeah,
just like?
I would say that and his title in the Eastern Conference champions. That was my favorite. Yeah, just those. I mean, the Rockets teams and the Lakers teams they were on, they were fine. They weren't
Yeah,
anything memorable. They're kind of
yeah,
the Lakers in particular are kind of just a disappointment. Um, Now, Carmelo Anthony, offensive force, yeah, just an absolute scorer. Remember he dropped
yes,
62 in that one game. Um, Made one Western Conference Finals with the Nuggets. With the Knicks, he was a same Carmelo, just a heavy scorer. Just never not much postseason success. Farthest they made it was divisional round. I know they lost to the Paul George Pacers that one year, but yeah, the came from that '03 draft class that was elite. him,
possibly the greatest ever draft
him,
class.
LeBron, Wade, and
So
Bosh. Yeah, just incredible. Um, you could say he came short in the postseason, but he does have a NCAA title on his resume too, the Syracuse team. So I think that also really helps his case because he was a absolute force in Syracuse as well, and yeah, clearly deserving of the Hall of Fame. Um, Not really someone you want to completely model your game after because he wasn't a good defender and
no,
he just really just a scorer. But he was fun to watch. So like these, yeah, we watched these guys growing up, and
yeah.
makes you feel a little old that they're going to the Hall of Fame now, but it's deserving.
Well, and I always enjoyed watching Melo play. He was just a very smooth player, and I think I'll remember him fondly. And I feel like that's just kind of the theme with the NBA comparing it to the NFL and Major League Baseball is NFL it's all about team success and MLB it's all about what stats, the batting average, the OPS, the home runs, the RBIs. With the NBA and the sport of basketball, it's a little bit different. And I think you don't have to have the postseason success to be remembered fondly. I think a lot of it's aesthetic and the way you look on the court. And I think Melo will be remembered fondly. Not to mention his time at Syracuse, going to the Final Four there. So awesome that those two are getting into the Hall of Fame. Childhood favorites of mine. I love watching Howard. Love using him on 2K as well. So always remember those two guys. U.S. Olympic team, Redeem team. Around '08, I don't remember that team as well. I have watched the documentary. I'm more uh, remember more of the 2012 team and on, but I know that Olympic team from '08 was huge for them. After the bronze medal that they got in '04. But let's move on. We got one of the best weekends in golf. It is the Masters. This if there's not a golf tournament I ever watch ever throughout the whole season, this is the one I am always going to catch. This course at Augusta is the most beautiful in the world. You can argue with me about that all you want, but I will stand on that hill. Um, the reasons we love the Masters are the course, the history, Amen Corner, Tiger in '05 hitting that chip shot. That's just so iconic. You know, just give me kind of your thoughts on the Masters and what you're looking for going into this year's tournament.
So yeah, it's for I mean everyone, even non-golf watchers, pretty much know what the Masters is. Like, I give credit to CBS for this too. Like, you watch the Super Bowl and you watch March Madness, and you just keep seeing these advertisements for the
CBS
Masters.
has got the rights to a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and they do a good job marketing it because yeah, I mean, it helps that it's not called like a championship or like
Right.
open or something like that. It's got a unique name, the Masters. It's on the same course every year. It's a historic course. Like, I mean, like, viewers connect with that course because they see it every single year. Like you said, Amen Corner, that par 3 16th hole. I mean, everyone knows that one. And it's different than the other majors because yeah, they switch venues every year. Which, not taking it. I mean, I love those
Yeah. Yeah.
matches as well, tournaments as well. But it's nothing like the Masters. But yeah, just the vibes of the Masters is just, it's so much different than everything else in golf. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this year's. There's several interesting storylines going into it.
A lot of good
But
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, so a few of those storylines. First off, we got number one golf ranked in the world, Scotty Scheffler. He is one of four golfers to have multiple Masters wins in this century. He won it back in 2022 as well as last year, so he is the defending champ. He has never finished outside the top 20 at Augusta, so this is one of his favorite courses to play at, and so it's no question that he is the favorite coming into this Masters tournament this year. Another guy to really look for is Rory McIlroy. He needs one more. He needs one more major, and this is the one that he's been chasing for a long time. Uh, can he claim the green jacket this year that has eluded him thus far in his career? He needs one to complete the career Grand Slam. He has 7 top 10 finishes in his 16 Masters appearances. We all remember the 2011 collapse. He led the tournament after 3 rounds, then shot an 80 in the final round to drop to a tie for 15th. Just a total collapse in that year. In 2022, he was the runner-up. He finished behind Scotty for his best result at Augusta. And this year, it's looking really good for him. I have high hopes for his tournament success this year. He enters the Masters coming off a strong start to the season. He's finished top 20 in all 5 tournaments that he's played in. Someone like him, he gets to pick and choose which tournaments. He's not one of the grinders that a lot of most PGA Tour players are, but he's also won at Pebble Beach at the Pro-Am, and obviously we went over the Players just a couple of weeks ago. Winning that one in a playoff was probably really, really big for him. So looking at a couple of those storylines, what are you feeling with Scotty and Roy this week?
yeah, Rory's looking good. He also, in his last match in the Texas Children's Houston's Open, he finished top 5 in that. And I mean, who knows if he was taking that one like as seriously as all the other ones, but he still
Right.
finished top 5. I mean, that just shows you how locked in he is right now. Yeah, I think the that U.S. Open last year missed putt. I think we've seen a new Rory since then. I think he's been more locked in. And yeah, it's every year since every year he's had a chance to complete the to get the 4 majors. We talk about it and like, yeah, this is the year, and then it just doesn't happen, disappoints. But it's the absolute truth that this year is different than previous years because of how much success he's had so far in 2025. Like he's had two wins, 2 outright wins, and a recent top 5 finish. So I'm definitely looking at him going into this. We'll give our picks later, but Scotty, defending champion. Who was the last defending master? Who was the last back-to-back Masters champion? Do you know? I know it
Not
hasn't
off
happened
the
for a
top of
while.
my
It hasn't
head.
happened for a while. I know that.
No, it hasn't.
Um,
I would just assume Tiger, but I'm probably wrong about
yeah,
that.
you're probably right. He's not. Scotty's not been like usual Scotty. Like last year, he was like everyone knew. Okay, yeah, he's probably going to win. I mean,
yeah.
you can pick whoever, you can get all cute with your picks and stuff.
It was his year.
It was pretty clearly his year. It's not saying he's had a bad year though. I mean, he finished second just recently in the Texas Children's Houston Open, and I know he had some sort of a hand injury.
Yeah.
Yes, off the golf course injury from what I heard a kitchen injury. So, yeah, I think, but he's still a favorite for good reason because, I mean, when you've won the Masters twice in the 3 years, I mean, you're locked. You got a good connection with the course, and usually the ones who win it are always going to be like near the top. Like even you see some of the old guys who are way past their prime, but you'll
watch
see
out
them.
for Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, what was that? 2 years ago, he finished second place.
Yeah,
I mean, so
the guys who play well here always play well here.
Yeah, and way past their prime, but sometimes they'll find a way to make the second weekend just because they know this course and they're familiar with the course and they know how to play it well. Yeah, there's some guys there's some great golfers who are built for the Masters, for Augusta, and some who are still great golfers. It's just the course isn't for them. Like it's just a bad course for them, and it's hard for them to win.
Yeah, and also what's great about the majors and this one just being the history that it has, but also it also being a major, we get those live guys, Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, who's kind of been off his game since winning it a couple of years ago, and also Phil Mickelson, as I just mentioned. So let's get into some of our betting picks for this Masters weekend. Let's start with top 20, top 10, top 5 finishes. I'll let you start. Who would be your top 5 finish? If you have multiple, that works as well.
Yeah, so just for heads up, I'm going for value here because obviously I think Scheffler and McIlroy would be great.
Let's shake things up a little bit.
This is just value I'm looking at. So you say start with top 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Top 5, I like Colin Morikawa at plus 270. He's always around. The gripe against him is he hasn't been able to finish lately.
Right.
But this isn't an outright winner bet. This is a top 5 bet. He's always around. What was it? What was that tournament a few weeks ago?
It was the Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer. Yeah, he was right there. He had the lead, and Henley just played insane and won that. So yeah, I like Colin Morikawa plus 270 for a top 5. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, for my top 5, I went with Rory here. This is where I wanted to place him just because I didn't want to have him as my winner. It'd be awesome if he did win. I'd still win this bet. But having a top 5, just because of what we mentioned, the way he's been playing this season, I think he can stay up high in the leaderboard and have a shot at it. But ultimately, I'm expecting him to come up short, as he always has. For top 10, I have Bryson DeChambeau. So he's played well here the last couple of years. Definitely last year, he was in contention for most of the weekend. I get him at minus 160. It's not a ton of value, but I do see that as one of the best options for a top 10 finish. I don't see him as being in contention to win it, but I do see him making the cut, being one of the guys that you'll see on the leaderboard come that final round. Who do you have as your top 10?
So I have 2, and once, like I said, these are good value. So I have Shane Lowry at plus 240.
Nice.
He's been okay at Augusta, but he's usually always hanging around in majors, and he's usually around the top 10. And the other one I have is Corey Connors plus 250. So he's been playing really well lately. His last few finishes, he's had a tied 18th, 8th, 6th, and 3rd. So he's had 3 top 10 finishes here in the last couple months. So I really think he's playing well. So and at plus 250, I wouldn't pass that up. And just all these odds are from FanDuel, if anyone's wondering.
Yeah, FanDuel. We stick with FanDuel. Give me your top 20, and then I'll finish it off here.
Okay, so I have a live guy in my top 20. I have Cam Smith plus 145, and I was even tempted to throw out like a really large bet for him top 10 because he's finished top 10 in 4 of the last 5 Masters. Like,
Oh wow,
yeah.
nice.
So to me, if you're getting plus money for him at top 20, I don't know how seriously he's taking live. I think he may have been top 10 here in their recent over the weekend, their tournament over the weekend. But come major time, yeah, he's always around, especially the Masters. Like I said, 4 of the last 5. That's no accident, and he has an open title with him as well. So I like Cam Smith plus 145. My other long shot one, and this is me kind of rooting for the guy, but he's also been playing decently. He's at all top 30 finishes this month. He hasn't played the Masters since 2022. But Daniel Berger at plus 200, he had that he had that injury that kept him out for a couple of years, but he's been playing. He's been a good comeback. He's been playing great lately, and at plus 200 for top 20, and it's a guy who's easy to root for because of how long he's been out. That's my second top 20 pick.
Awesome. Yeah, for top 20, I went with a couple of live guys who have won here before, so I know that they'll play well at Augusta, and a safe pick in the top 20 will suffice for me. But I'll have Phil Mickelson at plus 240 that I mentioned earlier, as well as Patrick Reed at plus 160. Both these guys have won here before. I just want to keep with that theme of guys who know how to manage the greens and the fairways at Augusta. So for my winner, and then we'll do a fun one with the missed cut pick here. But for my winner, obviously you want to sprinkle a little bit on Scotty, even though it's you're still getting plus money at plus 400. All the winners are going to be good money because it's so difficult to pick the winner. But my sexy pick here is Ludwig Oberg. He's played very well this season. He is an up-and-comer who is going to be a star on the PGA Tour. He's already almost at that level, but at plus 1,800, you get some really good value on him winning this thing. Who do you have as your winner?
Yeah, I don't like it, but he's just been playing too well recently. I got to go plus 650 with Rory McIlroy. I've never picked him to win just because in the few years I've watched golf, just because I know his history at the Masters, but I just think he's been playing really well recently, and I like it. The other thing I haven't talked about yet, the live guys. So we haven't seen a live guy win the Masters yet. Obviously,
No.
like John Rahm joined live after he won.
Right.
But there's just a couple of guys who are just interesting. So I feel like for the last couple of years, we've kept hearing how good Joaquin Niemann is. And if you look at how good he is, he's the number 1 live player.
He's dominating live.
He's dominating. It's just at some point, and I'm starting to hear that again. Like, oh yeah, you got to watch out for him. But like, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, that's the definition of insanity. So like, I'm not buying into it until I think his best finish. I think he finished one time in the top 20. So once he breaks that top 10, then I think okay, I might start looking at him in the future. But John Rahm, he has the third best odds to win the Masters, and I know he won it 2 years ago. It'll be interesting to see guys like him and Brooks Koepka. We haven't mentioned him yet.
Yeah.
Brooks hasn't won a Masters, but he's won a few majors.
To me, I feel like we've seen the best golf from both of those guys.
Yeah,
I don't know that we'll see that.
We don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they ever merge, live in PGA, and they all play together some more. That
Yeah
might. I think think I read a stat. Kepka's made the cut in like the last 9 majors. So I think he's a guy that I feel like if he's in contention early, like he might lock in and like
Yeah.
actually. But if he's on the fringe, he might just pack it up and go home.
Yeah. I'll finish it off here with a fun one. It's the missed cut. So I've got 3 here. This was this is my favorite picks here, but one that you're not getting much value on at minus 160, but it's Max Homa. He's really fallen off here, and it's the reason why he has a minus 160 next to his name. He's struggled mightily, just kind of fallen off the face of the earth on the PGA Tour, and I would expect him to miss the cut at
He
a
got
tough
rid of
course like
his,
Augusta.
and then he fired his caddy here recently.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And then I look at Dustin Johnson from Live as someone who's pretty much washed. He was the best player in the world for a long time on the PGA Tour, but I think he's past his taking this seriously years. So you're getting him at plus 130 at least to miss the cut.
So I went to the PGA Championship last year at Valhalla, and I was there early, and I was there on Sunday, and Dustin Johnson was teeing off early Sunday, and just watching him walk around the course, he just seems so happy. I think I think since he's won a Masters and he's in Live, I think his goal is just to, I'll make the cut, but I'm just happy to be here. I'm just like
Make the
golfing
money.
and make the money. I'm just gonna vibe and just be here, which I mean I respect. I mean once you have a green jacket, you're immortal in the golf world. So
My last pick for missed cut is actually a guy who's in the top 5 odds to win it. I'm going John Rahm. I'm going to have him miss the cut at plus 450. Some really good value on that. I don't think he has it anymore. Like I said, I think we've seen the best golf from Rahm, so that's my last pick for the missed cut. Who do you got?
So I only have one, and you're gonna hate me for this. And this, I don't even know what the odds are. I just kind of, I've been thinking about this all day, but of who the bold pick I would take for missing the cut. But I'm gonna go with Ludwig Aberg. He's just,
Oh no.
he's been really up or really down. He's kind of just been all over the place. I absolutely could eat my words here, and he could finish. I mean, he finished second last year. He finished second in the Masters last year, and he's won. He's won already this year, I believe. But he's also, I believe, missed a couple cuts already this year. So he's just all over the place. And I don't like this bet. I don't like to make missed cuts. I like my favorite kind of bet's top 20. So that's why I would go long shot here. But if I was to pick a long shot, that would be who I would pick.
Awesome. Well, we'll be watching this weekend. There's going to be a lot of good golf being played at a beautiful course.
Oh, one final question for you.
Yeah.
Which old guy has the best chance of making it to the second weekend?
Fred Couples. I feel like I'm almost positive he makes the cut most years, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's a different guy I'm thinking of. But I think it'd be really cool if he did. If not,
that or Bernard Langer.
Yeah, it's his last season.
His last one. It'd be awesome to see him make it. I saw VJ Singh pulled out today due to an injury.
Yep.
But
and unfortunately, no Tiger. So that's with the Achilles injury and the surgery, we don't get to see him. It's always fun to see him on the course, but unfortunately, he won't be there this year. Got some more to get to. I know we're kind of up against it, but we got some MLB stuff. Just quickly going through some of the games and biggest stories as we head towards another week in the regular season. We got first off, huge news out of the Atlanta Braves organization. Jurickson Profar caught using PEDs, pissed hot, and he's going to serve an 80-game ban. He can't be with the team. He can't even work out at their facilities. From when the ban started, he won't be eligible to return until June 29th. So that takes a huge chunk out of this season.
Yeah,
He's
good for the
also
Brave. Good thing for the Braves is that that's the only thing that's going wrong so far this season. I mean, let me just look at where they are. And oh yeah,
oh
no,
no, oh no, my pick for the World
yeah,
Series, that is not going well. He's and it probably won't even matter at this point. I know it's still early, but he's ineligible for the 2025 postseason. So if the Braves were to turn this thing around quickly and make it to the postseason, they wouldn't even be able to have him. He does stand to lose 5.8 million of his $12 million salary for this season. It just it makes me mad because it makes puts last season into a better perspective. It makes more sense, but it got him paid. He was playing on a 1 year, $1 million contract with San Diego, and now he's coming out of this with a 3 year, 42 million with Atlanta. Obviously, 5.8 coming off of that, but he's getting the huge payday that he's probably always wanted. And if you look back at his career, it we thought it was a great story last season when in his age 31 season he really popped off. It was one of the best stories from last year, but in his 13 years before that, he only batted 238 with a 706 OPS. So just a middling player that was kind of just a role player on multiple teams. But last year, he batted 280 with an 839 OPS, 24 home runs, and 85 RBIs. It was his most home run RBI totals for him in one season. It was his first All-Star selection in Silver Slugger while playing on that 1 year, $1 million contract with San Diego. And it's, like you said, just one of a multitude of things that have gone wrong for the Braves this season. Yeah, to me, this is a slap in the face to the guys battling for spots in AAA. I mean, I know I'm kind of contradictory when it comes to PEDs. I look at guys like Bonds and Clemens and A-Rod and those guys, and I don't take it to heart as much because they were great and they were Hall of Fame players that were always going to be on an MLB team. They extended their careers. They had some juice numbers, some seasons. But for a guy like this, who knows how hard it is to stay on an MLB team, and he's been able to do that for most of his career. For all the guys battling for spots in the majors, even for just one day, it is a bit of a slap in the face when they're paying this guy money that they could have other guys who are really working for it.
yeah. With the PED thing, yeah, it really is tough. It's tough to fairly evaluate it just because there's so many different cases of it that have, you could argue, have been good for the sport, like the
Right.
'90s.
The steroid era definitely
Stewart was
built up
great.
some good, excitement for the sport.
Yeah, but now since it's so, yeah, now since, I mean, everyone knows don't use PEDs. Like,
Yeah.
you're probably
But
gonna
this
get
is
caught.
this is going to keep happening.
Yeah,
Look at what happened for him. He got the big contract.
yeah, yeah.
This is just going to keep happening. But what I like to call our weekly mound visit. Let's get through some big other news, more happier news. Let's say that the Blue Jays signed Vladdy Jr. to a 14-year, $500 million extension. We were coming into the season talking about him hitting free agency at the end of the year, maybe a big year. Now I'm worried that I'm not going to get my MVP bet, right? Because now he's set for 14 years. That puts him in his age 41 season. Crazy. Baseball contracts are
I
stupid.
wonder what the buyout for that is.
I know it's stupid. But the question here is, can Toronto build a contender around Vlad now that they've paid him all this money? This is kind of the question in most sports when you send a big payday one way to a player, and it's not like a bunch of it's deferred like what the Dodgers are doing with Shohei and a lot of the stars there. But Toronto hasn't won a playoff game since 2016.
They're also in a
Like
they're also in a tough division, and it'll probably always be tough as long as the Yankees and Red Sox are in your division.
right.
It's always going to be
Red Sox got better.
Yeah, and I mean, if either one of those teams are down, they won't be down for long. So yeah, 14 years. Yeah, to me that's the it's my favorite thing about breaking baseball news is when I see that money. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I think Pujols had a similar contract where just like the years on these contracts aren't right. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But looking at the Dodgers, they finally lost. They took an L finally after starting the season 8-0. The Phillies actually took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, and what I noticed from that series is that the Phillies are the best matchup against the Dodgers. They do not fear them. They have the most all stars and just the caliber of roster to be able to match up the best with the Dodgers. I think it played out this past weekend. And then finally with the Reds, little news with the Cincinnati Reds, they lose 3 straight games by a score of 1-0. I'm sorry, Mel and Papap. Your Reds did not do well. They're the first team since the 1960 Phillies to do this. It's crazy. That's
It nearly happened.
demoralizing.
It nearly happened again. I was keeping track of that. I was keeping track of that fourth game. It was 1-0 in the 6th inning. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But
Great pitching. I mean, you got that going
well,
for you. That's
yeah.
better than what the Cardinals are doing, which I will get to right now.
Mm-hmm.
My Cardinals. Let's do our weekly Cardinals check-in. Wow, what a turnaround from last week. 3-0 start against the Minnesota Twins got my hopes up high, and it was false hope, at least for now. As their series against the Angels, they were able to get 1 out of 3. The bats are there. That's clear as day. But a couple tough losses in extra innings against the Angels really hurt them. Those extra innings losses are really demoralizing because you're right there. You're expending extra energy for those extra innings. But a standout player for me was Ivan Herrera, who had a 3-homer game in the final game of the series. I like that they were able to take that last game after those tough losses. That showed a lot of grit on their part. And Herrera is actually the first Cardinal catcher to ever homer 3 times in a single game. So good on you. In the Boston series, this is where things went to shit. They scored 9 in game 1, but still lost 13-9. The pitching was not there for them. Obviously, Saturday's game got rained out. They played a doubleheader on Sunday. And again, our catchers are coming through with Pajes with a 2-run double, stretched the lead to 4-2 in that first of the doubleheader series. But in the 9th inning, Ryan Helsley, probably as far as our whole pitching staff is concerned, our most for sure thing. I mean, I would say he's a top 3, if not top 5, closer in this league. One of the best in the league. He walks 4 and blows the save. That was one of the toughest innings I've ever had to watch. You knew once they blew the save that extra innings were going to go Boston's way, and they ended up losing that game in extras. And then from that, the nightcapper was a blowout loss. Somehow, we still scored 7, but when you give up 18 runs, I don't think anyone's ever won a game when they've given up 18 runs. And then in we've started the series with Pittsburgh this week. We gave up 8 in game 1. The pitching just is not there. I just got the notification we won today, so that cuts that losing streak right where it should be. But just looking at what we've done in the month of April, just 6 games, and these are the numbers that I took just from the 2 games against the Angels, the 3 against Boston, and the 1 yesterday against Pittsburgh. We've allowed 58 runs. That is 9.7 per game. Our ERA is a 6.18. That's just in 6 games. But on the flip side of it, we've scored 43 runs, 7.2 per game. We're second behind the Yankees in OPS. I mean, we are hitting the crap out of the ball, but we are getting no help from the guys on the mound. So I don't know if you've caught any of the Cardinals games, but any thoughts on what we've seen this past week?
Score watching, and I mean, if in terms of entertainment, they got that.
A lot of balls in the stands.
A lot of balls in the stands. So if you're a guy who gets bored from good pitching games, I would say the Cardinals games are the ones to go to. But I mean, yeah, we talked about this last week when the Cardinals got off to a fast start. Looked hopeful, but it's hard to take really anything seriously away from the first series other than a little bit of positive vibes because things can turn around very quickly. And they got the 5-3 win over Pittsburgh today. So I guess they close out the series tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's our weekly Cardinals check-in. because I'm a huge Cardinals fan, and that's what we'll do each week. But looking at the players of the week in the AL, in the NL, we actually had two former Houston Astros players. In the AL, we have Alex Bregman of the Boston Red Sox. Last week, he batted .407 with a .448 slugging percentage and an .815 OPS. He had 5 doubles, 2 home runs, and 10 RBIs. So good week there from Alex Bregman. On the NL side of things, we have the newly acquired Kyle Tucker of the Chicago Cubs. He had a .391 batting average with a .548 slugging and .913 OPS. 3 home runs in that stretch and 8 RBIs. So pretty cool stuff there from those two guys.
Cubs need to probably lock him in.
Yeah, I would definitely. He's one of the best players in the league right now. So that'll wrap up some MLB content. Up against it here, some few bits of pieces of news here from the NFL. They had the league meeting, so some new rule changes have come out. We've had the new rule that allows both teams to have a possession in overtime. Finally, an overtime that structure that makes sense. The whole, someone scores a touchdown, meaning Patrick Mahomes gets the coin toss in favor of him, and he gets to score a touchdown. The other team will get a chance to have the ball as well, so that we won't just have those sudden death by a touchdown. We also had a new rule where first down measurements will be moving from chain gangs to the camera-based technology that we've heard so much about. My only thought on this is rip the chain gang. Love the chain gang, though. I love the drama that unfolds whenever they bring that out, and you're just waiting to see where the football lines up with the marker. We also had a new rule where touchbacks will be moved from the 30 to the 35-yard line. I think NFL is really bullish on making sure that kickoffs happen and touchbacks don't. So they're going to start really punishing the kickoff crews here. And then finally, a couple things that got tabled until the spring meetings was the tush push being banned. We'll see what happens there. A lot of teams in favor of that going away, as it being looked at as a too easy of a play for the Philadelphia Eagles specifically. I know other teams have tried it, but have failed. And then also playoff reseeding, having it where a team like Minnesota, in a situation where a division winner gets home field advantage, and a team like Minnesota, who's second best in the whole NFC, would have to play on the road in the first round. I think that's a lot of what they're looking at with playoff reseeding. So any thoughts on the league meetings? I know it's just little bits and pieces of news.
Yeah, we'll go quick here since we've been on a long time. But the overtime, so people have always said that college overtime is so much better than NFL overtime, and that the NFL should just adopt that. And I've always said that's a terrible idea because the college kickers are so much worse than the NFL kickers. So if the NFL team started from the 25, the game would just could potentially last forever. But I've always thought about the NFL could adopt the college rules by starting at the 50. I thought that would be okay because the kickers, unless you're Brandon Aubrey indoors, you're probably not going to attempt that. And and the only thing that's interesting about that is, could you imagine the implications on fantasy football if there's an overtime game that just goes on and on and on, and people just keep scoring touchdowns? Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see how that will look in the regular season. It really never made any sense to just do it in the postseason. Yeah, and not do it in the regular season. That's kind of just dumb. Might as well do both or neither. The chain gang. I can't wait to be arguing with technology on my couch in the living room. Saying that I know better. That's my main takeaway from that one. The touchback thing. I hope it works, because else I hated the 30-yard line because it made it so much easier for the offense, when they were down, needed a field goal to win it. It made it so much easier to get that field goal with a shorter field. I think it's lowering I think stats are going to be a little bit worse because teams aren't starting from the 20 or 25 anymore. They're starting from the 30. And if they're actually moving it to the 35, then this better have results, or it could hurt the league a little bit, because offense is starting from the 35. Yeah, I mean, for a good kicker, you only need 15 to 20 yards, 15 or 20 yards to get in the field goal range for a really good kicker, which is just really short. And yeah, so hopefully we see more kickoffs. Kickoffs are exciting.
Yeah.
I know they lead to injuries. I get that, and the NFL has also been looking to prevent that, which is why they don't get off to a running start anymore. But yeah, who knows how it'll look? Hopefully for the better. The tush push. I think I'm against banning it unless there's
Yeah.
something actually illegal, like formation wise, which people have claimed. I've never seen it, but if someone can convince me, then I'll believe them. But until I see that, yeah, I mean, if the team's just really good at a move, it'd be like the NBA banning the sky hook when
Yeah.
Kareem was in the league. I mean, it's just come on. And then lastly, the playoff reseeding table until May. I also hope that does not get voted for because what just happened this past year rarely happens. And when they all lost in their first game of the playoff, they kind of, especially the Lions, and the Lions lost at home. It kind of just made their whole argument look silly. Like, okay, yeah, were you guys actually that good, or were you just beating up on each other? And
Right.
yeah. So, and it's an accomplishment to win your division. I know there's been some crappy division winners in the past, but I still think you should be. I think you should be rewarded for that. I think home field advantage is good, and even if you're the best wild card team, it's still. I know you're going to want home field advantage, but still you're playing a potentially bad team in the playoffs in the first game, which you'd probably rather have that than play like another good wild card team at home. So, yeah, I hope it stays the same. I don't want them changing it. I was first opposed to the going from 6 to 7 teams in the playoffs, but I think that's.
Yeah.
I mean, more football is more football, so I'm happy with it.
Definitely. Well, we've gone way past what we love to go. We were at an hour 26 here. We had a lot to get to today, though, but that'll do it for us here at the K&L Sports Huddle. We'll be back here next week at our regularly scheduled Monday night recording. So you can expect us to be back on schedule with Tuesday morning being able to catch our podcast then. But we'll catch you next time. Be on the lookout for it next week. Again, congrats to Florida. Congrats to UConn. Our college basketball coverage is done for the year and should open up some breathing room on the podcast for this year.